Good morning, everyone. I'm sorry, good afternoon, I should say. It is afternoon. My name is José Aranda. I work here at the library at Doña Ana Community College. And I have a couple of several colleagues with us that will be helping behind the scenes. Today's presentation is on IMDb. And just a couple of housekeeping items. In case you have never been with us before. This presentation will be recorded and made available at a later time for any and all to see and share. Please mute your microphones. If you have a question, I will pause a couple times throughout the presentation and ask for any comments. Otherwise, you can use the chat box. It will be manned by one of our colleagues, and I will be checking on that as well. I think that's it. Is there any concerns before we begin? I see some. No. Okay, good. My colleague Susan Botley will be posting relevant and important links and information in the chat box, so please keep an eye on that. Things like our homepage and email and a lot of information that we've already covered in previous recordings. So we want to keep these presentations short. So please be mindful of the chat for those links and tidbits of information. But of course, when it's done, we'll be glad to entertain any comments or questions, and also tell you where all our recordings are housed and how you can access them. Okay, so let us begin. Today's presentation is not intended in any way to promote this resource. This resource is a business enterprise that lives online. My focus is how our users can benefit from using it. But I am not a spokesperson for IMDb, and nor is this presentation meant to promote their services and their paid fees and all those things. I am only going to focus and concentrate on how to use it for one's benefit. But these are our objectives that we plan to cover. This is not an extensive list. These are just some of the features that I chose to talk about IMDb today. Some of you may be avid users of this and may even know more than I do. But anyways, let us begin. This is a picture of the homepage, in case some of you were wondering, well, what is IMDb? But before I start that, I thought, well, maybe if I showed them what it looks like, would be a good introduction. This picture there swivels. They have, I forgot what that's called, but I mean, the pictures constantly change. So it just so happened to fall on this particular picture. So just be aware of that. It is free to access online in terms of the information that I'm going to show, but there is a paid version of it as well. And the website is imdb.com. Pretty simple. And there's also the apps that you could download if you wish to use it there as well. So about 20 years ago, when are we, 21 years ago, I first learned of IMDb. And it's lasted all this time. So for a website to have lasted the last 20 years, I think is worthy of something, because not too many websites have lasted that long. There have been significant changes in online and streaming and digital. But this website has lasted. So, and we used it as an online source to look up information on movies or television shows, actors and directors, and then of course the characters they played. But since then, it has expanded. So let me read you a little bit about the history, right? I'm sorry, a little bit about IMDb. It is a movie database. So it's a database, right? And it's online. You can access it and look up information, factual information of productions, right? Either theatrical, on television, or on screen. And know about the credits in terms of who the actors were, who the directors are, the characters they played, plot. And then it's just expanded into a bunch of other stuff with videos, and now there's video games are included, and they even stream content. So it really has evolved, right? And it's a very popular website. And so there's lots of information on there, right, that you can access. I've mentioned some already, but there's also ratings, some trivia, biographies, all things that I think sometimes, one would like information on that. So this is a great website for that. It began, though, being operated as a fan website, and almost 30 years ago, over 30 years ago. What is important to know now, though, is because it's evolved, it's now a subsidiary of Amazon, and today has over 10 million titles and records and lots of registered users. So an introduction of what IMDb is. And this is a picture taken from their website that explains further what it is, right? A little history there, but it's a searchable database that contains factual information about all those productions. And sometimes we may have a need or just a question about who played what in what series or what movie and when and how did, some may call that trivia. I don't know. Sometimes it's important to know those things. In today's world, we get bombarded more than ever with movies, with things to watch on TV, with streaming, with that a source like this makes sense, right? It's online, it's easily accessible, and it aggregates all this information. One can say you can just simply type it in Google, but I don't think Google can search all the information that IMDb has and the way it's organized on their website. But you're right, Google may provide some of that information, but not just for those that are avid moviegoers or fans of television, etc. It is a very expansive tool. Again, the side that I'm going to talk about today will be limited, but it has so much more capability. Anyways, I thought I'd share with you a picture from their website with some of this information. I think especially today, one of the things, and I'll talk about this later, how it's changed, how this website has changed is that it now allows, under its paid services for actors, especially those that are up and coming or struggling, right, to provide input into this database to help them, right? And I'll talk more about that in a little bit. Before I go on, are there any questions or comments? It's in essence what IMDb is, but I know there's a lot more. I don't see any, I don't hear any, so I will continue. Very good. History. This is some history about IMDb. I know there's a lot of text here, but basically, this person started a list over 30 years ago of characters he thought had beautiful lives, right? And then others started lists with other types of lists. And so basically, this database was created when all of these lists became unified. And so now one was able to access and search through all these lists at the same time. So the goal of the participants now is to make these lists as inclusive as possible. So you can read up on the history if you wish yourself. This was paraphrased and taken from a lot more content, but I think it's interesting to see the evolution, the history of how this started, and then what it is today. Just a little example of here of where it's gone. It says by the 1990s, the list included over 10,000 films, but by October of 1990, this person Needham developed and posted this collection for those that are more computer savvy or literate, shell scripts that could be used to search the 4 lists that I previously mentioned, and thus the database would become what it is now. But it originally had this very humble beginning over 30 years ago. And it's, like I said, lasted and continues to be quite popular and useful for many people and for many reasons. So again, here are a couple of pictures of parts of their website that I thought was beneficial to know. Sometimes we're looking for information about actors or films or directors or characters, plots, etc. And we just can't connect the dots. And other times we wish to just be browsing and being pushed for information and content that resembles maybe a query, a search that we're interested in, or a genre. So there are 2 images here on this slide. It just illustrates for you how they've categorized some of these sections and how one can continue browsing if they wish through the website. And of course, on the second picture to the right, you see the video games are included there as well. Genres, most popular. There's a lot of ways to go about browsing this information. So kudos to IMDb for putting all of this together, I think. So if you did not know, hopefully now you do know about this. But there is a paid, I said earlier, right, that it is now owned by Amazon. So if you did not know, Amazon has a streaming service, Netflix, of course. There's a lot of streaming services now out there. So it shouldn't surprise anyone that IMDb Pro also provides streaming services. But in addition to that, it also allows those that pay this service to register and contribute not only content and user ratings, but also you'll see in a little bit, a couple more slides. If you're an upcoming actor, you too can then provide relevant information on credits that you've participated in. Because sometimes, not always though, certain productions even list the non-speaking actors and the other supportive roles that do not normally get mentioned. So I called it, it's kind of like the LinkedIn for Hollywood. If you don't know, LinkedIn is a social media website that is geared towards more to networking and the job market, so to speak. And it too can be free, but it also has a paid service. And what one normally does in that website is you boost up your profile, you boost up your resume and your content. You take control of that website that is highlighting you as a prospective employer or contributor. Prospective employee or contributor, and then with the purpose of marketing yourself for the next job, right? So that's what LinkedIn is in a nutshell. And so IMDb Pro can be, in my view, be considered as something similar to those that are in the entertainment business, because it's such a very popular and useful resource. So anyone can register, anyone can contribute, as long as you have $150 each year to pay. And I'm sure they have other greater access and privileges, which I am not aware of, because I am not a paid member. But I thought it was important enough to illustrate that this exists as well. I mentioned about the streaming services. If you're interested, you can look that information up. Here's some information. Again, I mentioned already that it is associated with Amazon. So there you have it. But I will not be talking about streaming services in this presentation. The data. So kind of like a wiki, which are kind of going away, but they used to be very popular. I mean, we know about Wikipedia, right? A wiki is a web source, an open web source where participants get to provide input, content, thus making it unique in that sense, but also more credible, because you have so many inputs from various people, but you also run the risk of having misinformation. But nonetheless, data is provided to this web source in a variety of areas and subjects. So depending on what you're looking for and what you're needing, it could be very useful for you. So I mentioned earlier about the LinkedIn for Hollywood, right? For the upcoming actors, there is this resume subscription service. Here it is. So I thought maybe we may have users in our community that are either in the theater arts or are aspiring to, or they know someone. So I thought I'd mention this part about it too. I do not know anything more than what's on this slide, but they do offer this as a paid service for those that wish. Probably one of the most used ways to use IMDb is to look up movies, titles of movies. We may be in conversations, or we may have presentations or other types of work, homework, for example, where we want to reference a certain film, but we don't remember the full name. We don't remember the director. We don't remember who was in that movie. This is the website to go to, because it categorizes all that information. And not only in English, as this slide indicates, right? In other languages as well. So I think that's neat, because cinema today has become more of this global environment, this global entity, right? We're more than ever seeing films from other countries very easily, whereas maybe 20 years ago, we had to go to the library or a video store to check those out. Now they're just so popular. So I think that's an important and neat aspect of IMDb, this globalization, this utilizing multiple languages and stuff. Because we know that Hollywood in California, United States, is not the only entity in the world that produces content for TV and movies. That's why. So. But this is something that I think is useful, right? You may be considering whether you should watch a movie or not, or how good it is, etc. Ratings can be useful in helping you determine that. You may have heard of websites such as Yelp. That's one I use frequently, and that is a user-based rating system enterprise that tells you what others have thought about that restaurant or that location or that business, whatever. So something to consider, I think. A part of the wiki that allows users to participate, provides it does something to the ratings, I believe, as opposed to a critic, as opposed to an insider of Hollywood, as opposed to, do you see what I'm saying? So if you did not know, IMDb uses ratings, so that could be useful for you in determining whether or not you want to access or watch a particular film or not. But how they use those ratings and weigh them. This slide talks a little bit more about that, but I am not going to talk about this any further. Just that there is a rating. There may be more information out there about the algorithms that they use. It could be interesting for one, but this is as far as I was going to mention about the user ratings. It is not the only one out there. There are many websites and services and apps that give this type of information, right? User information rating. So, but one thing I am as a librarian, thrilled about IMDb is their advanced search. So let us go there. You can do a simple search, right? In IMDb. Or you can do an advanced search. And just look at some of the features that this advanced search has. Before I continue, is everyone seeing?
No, Jose, you can't see it, so you have to switch your screen.
Oh, okay, thank you. So go back to share screen. Now, can you see?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I forgot to share that. So I don't want to switch to, if I switch, would you see me switching from tabs?
Yes, we see you switching from tabs.
Very good. Okay. So I was saying here, you can type in a simple search, right? I typed in Star Wars here, and it gives you the information that you're maybe hopefully looking for. But you could also, there is also an advanced title search. And just look at some of these as I scroll down. Look at some of these features that they've included that I think are pretty neat. So not only a title, but the type of titles there, the release dates, the user ratings, or the number of votes, something different there, the genres, the awards, especially during Oscars. This web source is very useful, at least for someone like me who doesn't keep up with, you know, the Joneses with everything that's coming out of Hollywood. A website like this can produce information that's useful during those award shows, right? To a little bit of history, a little bit of background information. So there's just a lot of information here, from countries to, was it in black and white for those that are older, from the production companies that came out. You know, it's just amazing the amount of information and filters one can use when using advanced title search in IMDb. So I was very impressed with it. And so I just wanted to share that with you. But when you do find something, I just briefly want to introduce to you what to expect. There is a lot of, this is a commercial website, so there is a lot of propaganda, for lack of a better word, right? There's a lot of advertisements, internal. And so just know that. And many of the links that may be interesting, especially links that you think are going to take you to content, may eventually take you to something that you have to log in and pay for. So just be aware of that. But here I did an example search of a famous actor. It gives you a quick bio of of them, right? When they were born and stuff like that. But there's also photos of them, what they're known for, their filmography, all the films that they've been in. This is really neat for me, but also some of these do more than just act. They write, they direct, they produce, they do all these other things. And so if you scroll down to the bottom, it gives you those areas to look for as well. Related videos, details, trivia, all kinds of things. So in essence, lots of information, but this is how it's used. So from a simple search to an advanced search to what you get when you do search, right? So it's an excellent, I think, resource for cross-referencing, for being updated, for promoting new content, for sending you to other relevant information and resources. And it's free for this basic service. So for one, searching for information credible for this type for these types of topics, I think IMDb is a good source. So I need to go back to new share. Okay. There. Okay. And we're almost done here. Also, it also has a site index, right? For those of us that like having either a table of contents or a site index, you can go there and type in, if you weren't able to find it any other way of the few ways that I showed you already, there is an index that can help you with that. And last but not least, you know, I've told you that IMDb has evolved into this big media player, right? So at the bottom of their page, they listed all these links and things for you to consider and browse. So I thought I'd share those with you as well. It's a fun website. So I already took you to the website. Here are our references. Before we end, are there any questions? Are there any comments? I see none, I hear none. So again, thank you for joining us. This presentation was meant to introduce you to IMDb, and it was just limited in the scope of what we had planned to focus on. But if you have any questions regarding today's presentation or any other presentation that we've done, or just you want to get a hold of us, here are some of the ways you can do that. We have a website. From that website, we have links. And one of those links has a live guide that lists all our presentations. So give us a call, visit us in person, send us an email, chat with us, whatever way you wish. Our hours are up there, and we're mostly here during the week. Please consider filling out the survey. We have a quick 3-question survey, I believe, that we would like your input on, not only on how today's presentation was, but if you have any input, any feedback on future topics to consider. Susan will be posting that survey link in the chat box. Once again, thank you for joining us. Today's presentation was a brief overview on these objectives for IMDb. We are working currently for the lineup for fall, which will be starting for us at the DACC next month, in the middle or towards the end of August. Yeah, in about a month, our semester begins. So we are working on those presentations that we will continue. We thank you for your support. There's the link to the survey. And before we sign off, are there any comments, any questions? I'm taking a look at the chat. Okay, I see none. Well, thank you all very much for joining us. I hope this was useful and beneficial for you. Until next time.